family, here we go one more time. I am so happy to be saturated with love until I am jumping for joy as things stand now. Because the more you learn about what is really going on, the more you come to realize just how truly messed up things are on a worldwide scale and why. I am so happy I am not prejudiced, because the only thing I can say is strap on your seat belts and get ready for the big trip of your life. This is the Greys Part 2, or what I prefer to call the doppelgangers. These little 3 feet tall Zeta Reticulan Greys living beneath the United States in the ultra-modern facilities the United States secret government created for them and paid for it from the American people's $9 trillion, which they stole and which suddenly just vanished into thin air. Or at best, this is what the United States Congress said to the American people when asked about these funds. All of a sudden, everybody got busy texting on these distraction devices simultaneously. People, this stuff is serious. And I don't mean the S-I-R, I mean capital S-E-R. The gray aliens are not to be taken lightly. They have time traveled some 5,000 years from the future back to this past time for them. To them, the human species is a product to be experimented with and toyed with as a joke. Fortunately, there are taller and more benevolent Greys who are working to protect the Earth humans from these malicious ones. There are the Zionite protectors who are watching out for the humans on Earth. Once again, currently Earth is saturated with an assortment of aliens living beneath the surface. The both good ones and the bad ones the United States government is getting its military-industrial war machinery from. We have established that the fact of having done most of the genetic engineering on their Aryan creation in their laboratories beneath the Caucasus Mountains, where they first made them some 6,000 years ago, and kept them earth-bound, so their physical bodies will never afford them any deep space flight whatsoever. There is nothing anyone can do to correct this errant act. So we have the humanoids with the weakest of all physical forms shouting the loudest about being superior, while their creators, the Greys, who can also shapeshift into reptilian beings, are practicing upon their Aryan creation, which they took through some 65 genetic alterations from the Neanderthal mixed primate existence to their present forms in that span of 6,000 years. And these little suckers did a good-ass job, but not as good as the Syrians and vegans who created the black race 560 million years ago. However, it doesn't matter. They are still awesome-ass genetic engineers and not to be taken lightly. Not to be taken lightly. that again, not to be taken lightly. These gray aliens are implementing holographic inserts and matrix transplantations upon their Caucasian creation. Let me explain. The principal object here is for the Greys to orchestrate a mental takeover. Whenever a soul robbery or forced matrix transplant occurs, such as removing the being from its connection to its organic soul matrix and then connecting it to another matrix, the original cord is left hanging, so to speak. This cord spews out energy from the soul matrix. As the biological structure of the humanoids closed-circuited into a new matrix, the energy is then drawn into the other dimensional Earth version or parallel universe and to the individual residing in that particular system. The humanoid Caucasian possesses a reflection, a double, scientifically known as a doppelganger, residing within a parallel universe that represents the anti-particle of the particles in this universe. It is also referred to as the shadow or a dollar imprint or dollars for short, and is the recipient of that spewing energy from the original disconnection of the forced matrix implant transplantation. The cord runs from the core unit and extends to a sac at its end, or tissue capsule, as some physicians refer to it. We call it the natal capsule or natus, which is literally a sac. It is a sac operating the energy surrounding their bodies, containing all of the energy they will use in one lifetime as a single incarnation in time and space. These doppelgangers share these energy. If something goes wrong, which more often than not occurs, as the errant energy spewing from the severed cords are reconnected to the dolus, this errant energy going awry often speeds up the aging process and throws the emotional body out of whack. The mental takeover of the Caucasian entities the Zeta Reticuli Greys have produced is not going on behind their backs, but rather over their heads, literally, as dimensional frequencies band higher than the victim's ability to perceive its existence. The bottom line is what has been promoted as the Aryan super race is the most inferior of all humanoid races and have been controlled by the gray aliens ever since they created them. And later down the line, impulsed by the lying Zionists who made up the Jesus Christ story as a strategy to trick the entire planet into worshiping the phony Germanic image of the Greys, which they designed, shaped, and brought forth as a physical being which they could so easily manipulate and control and provide with weapons of war as their little diabolical puppets on an energy string, literally. The conflicts and stone walls one keeps running into as a Western anthropologist happens because none of them, other than the government scientists who are working right alongside with the aliens, know anything about genetic engineering in terms of producing humans, animals, etc. The Darwinian hunter-gatherer, falsely educated anthropologists are a waste of time. They are totally lost in the sauce, but they do get lots of airtime because the entire Western belief system is as dumb as a rock. What you're going to come in contact with now is some folk who must have been paying attention to YouTube because they come closest to anyone else I have listened to attempting to make sense of this creation.
Homo sapiens were genetically modified by space aliens. These aliens first landed where the river Euphrates enters the Persian Gulf. The reason is that in that area, a high concentration of what is called monatomic gold is found in the seawater, while nowadays the highest concentration is found on the islands of Hawaii. The aliens were members of the Anunnaki Empire and were on a quest to find this metal that is supposed to enhance and repair all bodily functions and stop the body from aging. Monatomic gold is what is called a superconductive metal. Superconductivity means that if you transport, for example, electricity through a line made of this material, you would not lose any energy as a result of heat dissipation. So if you input 100% of energy, you also output 100% of energy. Now apply this principle to your brain, which is a huge sensitive electrical machine. The monatomic gold makes your neural pathways act like quantum drive superhighways. This means that all your senses will receive input optimally. In turn, these inputs will be processed optimally, and those parts of your brain you don't use will become more active, so enhancing your memory, making you better understand problems, allowing you to sense evil, detecting lies, becoming telepathic, and even being able to time travel in your mind by seeing the past or the future. Empire, which includes races like the Saurian, or as they are called, the Reptoids, the Argarians, or Nordics, because of their human looks, and the Greys from Zeta Reticula, were looking for monatomic gold. This involved enormous effort because it had to be extracted from seawater, or by processing it in such a way that the gold, usually in pairs of 8 atoms per molecule, could be separated into individual particles. In this fashion, the monatomic elements were separated from the multi-atomic cousins. In a similar way, uranium-235 is produced.
Okay now, so far so good. Anu explains the genetic alterations of what was found here in the northern African region when the Anunnaki arrived in their spacecraft 450,000 years ago. Below that was the Syrian and vegan culture of perfection, needing no arrangement and containing a spacecraft civilization with helicopters, planes, flying cars, etc. In the black civilization white boy never speaks of.